very sophisticated explosive devices that are made in Iran or come through Iran.
Who's they?
That is terrorists and insurgents who are using them. Let's put it this way. The American military teams, when we lose American soldiers to an explosive, move in on the scene with investigatory forensic teams. They're very skilled, and they pick up pieces of the weapons that are used. They contract them back to Iran. We have intelligence that tells us that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which is their elite military group, is responsible for that, and the training and equipping. The question, some people say, well, how do you know that the Iranian government is authorizing the Revolutionary Guard to do that? Everything we know says that the head of the Revolutionary Guard reports, incidentally, not just to President Ahmadinejad, but to the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, and therefore it's impossible to reach any conclusion other than the top leadership of Iran knows that this revolutionary Iranian military force, which works for them, is training and equipping terrorists who are killing Americans.
How long do you think it would take to accomplish to destroy the bases you are talking about, and what would be the diplomatic ramifications of going across the borders to do that?
Yes, Steve, I don't know, but at this point, all I wanted to do, and trust me, this was something I thought about before I did it. It was not spontaneous. I wanted to introduce this topic into the policy discussions in Washington, both about the specific warlike actions that Iran is taking against us and our allies in Iraq, but to ask everybody to open their eyes to what's happening elsewhere around the Middle East. The Middle East is, I fear, maybe at a tipping point now. When you look at Gaza, at Lebanon, Syria, and an anti-Syrian member of the parliament was assassinated two days ago in Beirut. I mean, this is outrageous stuff going on, and it's going to affect our security.
It's been weeks since what you described. It's been weeks since what you described was reported on the broadcast.
Mark, it's actually been 6 months since the first announcement.
And you brought attention to it again. Has anyone at the White House said anything to you about any kind of such preparation?
No,
Since you're the only guy who would seem to support them?
Well, I'm not going to respond to that, but it's up to the president as commander-in-chief and the people who work around him to decide.
If he doesn't do it, you think the next president's going to have to?
I think this is a very present situation. I want to point out to you again that within the last few days, Secretary Gates has been very explicit about evidence we have that the Iranians are supplying the Taliban in Afghanistan, which is then using these sophisticated weapons to attack American and NATO forces there. So I think the administration is sending a message, and again, I want to stress that this was the major item talked about in the historic first time in 30 years that an American ambassador sat down with an Iranian ambassador in Baghdad 3 weeks ago. And I'm just saying, watching Iran work and listening to people in the Middle East that I spoke to when I was there a couple of weeks ago, the Iranians are not going to stop this unless they feel that we're going to do more than talk to them if they don't stop.
Joe, what's the risk to your image if you wind up looking more hawkish than even George Bush?
Well, I don't worry about that, because I'm worried about America's security. I'm worried that we're going to look back 10, 15 years from now and say, why was the world asleep as Iran, led by a fanatical leadership, began to move aggressively against American soldiers and our allies in the Middle East, and we didn't do anything but talk about it because, well, one of the reasons might be because we're divided politically. I think that it's very important for us to confront the reality of the threat we face. So
Well,
that's my
do
responsibility.
you acknowledge that we're on the
You
brink
mentioned
of a
Gaza.
world war, though? I mean, by
Well,
keeping
no.
the scale and going to Iran, I mean, that's what people are worried about. Or you're saying that they're already in the war? What is it?
I'm saying
sorry
that we
if
are
I'm saying
we
that.
are in a world war against the Islamist terrorists who attacked us on 9/11. That's for sure. The war on terrorism is a global conflict, unlike any we've ever faced before, because the enemy doesn't meet us on a battlefield, but it strikes from the shadows, and it hits at innocent civilians, usually not at our troops in uniform. But they're operating globally. They hit us on 9/11. They've struck throughout Europe and Asia and into Africa.
So you wouldn't agree with John Edwards, who said the global war is a bumper sticker?
Well, no, I definitely disagree with John Edwards when he says, I don't know what he meant when he says the global war on terror is a bumper sticker political slogan. Unfortunately, it's a reality. All you got to do is read what bin Laden and others like him say. They've been saying it now for more than 2 decades. They hate us. They hate some of the leaders in the Arab world. They want to throw them over and build an empire.
What's been the reaction from
Can
constituents
I
at
just-
your
can I
office
just-
here in
Yeah,
Hartford?
poor Abbas.
Can I just ask you about
yes.
what's going on in Gaza? You mentioned it briefly.
Yeah.
What does the United States do about the Hamas move in Gaza, and do you see Iran's hands in that move?